What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are doing another breakdown tonight. The last one we did was on the questions from YouTube. This one is from the questions on my Instagram. So I have picked out a few questions here. We're going to go through them and try to answer them in depth and see what we do. I just screenshot some, hadn't really gave any thought to it yet, so I'm going to answer them as I go, and really that'll be the first time I really thought deeply about it. So the first one I screenshot was from K_C_T_photography. And it says, what has been your favorite style of hunting? Whitetails. Ladder stand, hang on, climber, saddle, ground blind, etc. So I like to hunt whitetails any way that I can get them on the ground. And I have hunted every one of those. You know, growing up as a kid, when we hunted public land a lot, it was a climber. Most of the time I had the old Summit Vipers, and I drug those things around everywhere from South Carolina to North Carolina to Georgia, and climbed a lot of pine trees and those things, and loved it. Then moved on to more of the lock-on style when my dad bought the farm in Ohio. And then, you know, I've hunted out of a few ladder stands, not my favorite. And, you know, blinds are fine if I can't find a great tree to hunt, and they're great if the wind is swirling. So I hunt out of blinds quite a bit. Grizzly blinds, hard blinds are deadly because you can keep the wind or keep your scent locked in. But my favorite way to hunt is with a saddle. I just started doing that a few years ago. Swore I would never be caught dead in a tree saddle. Honest. And then the guys at Trophy Line talked me into just trying it, and they drove to my farm, and me and Micah tried it, and instantly was like, we have missed the boat on this a little bit. And I fell in love with it right away, and it's been my favorite way to hunt. It's the most deadly way to bow hunt a whitetail, especially if you don't want to hang a bunch of stands, if you want to be mobile, if you want to be able to move constantly in the rut, which is my favorite way, just running, gunning. And on a lot of our leases and properties, we don't even have stands hung. We just run and gun with saddles. So that's by far my favorite way. I think it's the most lethal way to kill a whitetail deer, is in a tree saddle. So there's that answer. Moving on. This is from bowlife_Ethan. It says, possibly things you wish you knew in your early 20s regarding tournaments, hunting, life would be greatly appreciated. Man, a lot. I wish I knew a lot more back when I was in my 20s. Really, the only thing I did know in my 20s was how to win, and I was good at it. I was good at winning. I wasn't good with being able to flip that switch off. You know, and when you are trying to be the best in the world at something, it makes you a pretty selfish person. I've talked about this in the last one. I feel like I say this a lot now, but, you know, you didn't realize it. You know, I was just trying to be the best, and that was my focus. And I feel like that switch, I never figured out until later on how to turn that off when I was not on the field of competition. It's very hard. It's a very hard balance and I feel like, you know, some of the things that make you great at something are also, it's the same thing that cuts your legs out from under you in another part of your life. And for me, that was the case in my 20s. What made me great was my ability for that fire to be lit 24/7, and the goal to be in the forefront and in the view of what I was looking at 24/7. That was what I thought about, was being the best, winning. And that's why I think I didn't lose very much in my 20s. But my priorities should have changed way sooner than they did. And I should have figured out the balance way sooner than I did. And I wish I could go back and smack myself a little bit when I was younger, and really just wake myself up and say, hey, man, you know, it's not all about, you know, winning tournaments and trophies. There's a lot more to life. So there's a lot of things I wish I knew in my 20s. Obviously, you know, nobody gets to go back and do that, and you have to learn the hard way, and that's what I did, you know. So that would be number one though, is to go back and say, you figure out how to flip that switch off, and you figure it out quick, So that's what I would tell myself. This guy, let me see. Wait a minute. Okay, this is Hutch_Grizzly. Seems like you hunt the best of the best spots, well managed, etc. Can you get it done in pressured situations or public? No hate, just wondering if you're into that. I'm not sure what you mean by, I guess you mean by pressured as in like high pressure, like a lot of people hunting. And you're right. I do get to hunt the best of the best spots. I feel like now in this season of my life. Now, like I said, growing up, this is not how I learned to hunt. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth where, we always had private land. I didn't hunt private land until I was, I don't know, 14, I guess, when my dad bought the farm in Ohio. We did get permission on some rock quarries in Elberton, Georgia. But there was other people that had permission as well. But most of the stuff we hunted were game land, South Carolina, and public land in western North Carolina, Pisgah National Forest. And that's where I learned to hunt as a kid. And it's some of the toughest hunting in the country for whitetails. And then I've, hunted a lot of public land in Ohio. One of my biggest deer I've killed in Kansas was on public. I don't sit and hashtag public land when I shoot one on public. I just do it. And I also hunt really, really great places. I've shot several bulls on public land. But it's just one of those things. It's always kind of got on my nerves when people feel like they gotta throw that in there, like it makes you a better hunter because you shot a 4-point on public land. And I'm not down in that. I think it's great. That's how I grew up hunting. But just because somebody gets to go hunt great places because they've made, did things, and it just put me in a situation where I have opportunities to go hunt these places because of the relationships I have, because of what I do for a living, what I've been able to accomplish. And I miss sometimes the grind of hunting public. I just miss what I miss more than anything is the lack of expectations. Like I just went hunting. It wasn't like I was out there trying to do anything special. I just loved to hunt, and I still love to hunt. And if this was all taken from me tomorrow and I had no private places to go hunt, I would still go hunt public land. I've never hunted for other people. I don't hunt because a certain way because people want me to, and I feel like there is in our industry a lot of jealousy and hate. And I'm not saying that the person that asked this question is that way, because I don't think they are. It's a great question. And I just don't understand why people that don't have the opportunity to hunt great private places hate people that do. And they constantly talk about them like they couldn't go to public and kill a deer, but like we didn't grow up doing that, So I just think if somebody does something and it gives them an opportunity to go do something cool, I'm happy for them. I'm not sitting there going, well, yeah, if they had to hunt where I had to hunt, they wouldn't kill anything. That's just a terrible attitude, And I think good for people that start somewhere and just have a dream and go make it happen, I would love to think I could still pull it off on public land, and maybe we'll go back and do a hunt or something like that. But honestly, I hunt because I love to hunt, and I hunt places that I love to hunt. And I don't really want to ever let that change and me try to go hunt public because everybody is pushing me to do that. If I feel like doing that one day again, maybe I'll do it. But I did a whole heck of a lot of it in my younger days. So, next question. This is from Michael_Cassini_coaching. How do you mentally recover from failure, missing a shot in hunting situation, losing a tournament, and or in life? Yeah, nobody likes it. I mean, honestly, it's I've had a lot of it. And as a competitor, you have more failure than you do success in about anything you do. So I think you just you learn that it's going to happen. You put yourself in a lot of situations where you can fail, And sometimes you do, and sometimes you win. Sometimes you're the hero, sometimes you fall on your face in front of everybody. And I think it's just understanding that from the get-go. If you go into something thinking you're not going to fail, then failure hurts a lot worse. And a failure can hold you back. Failure can end your career. I've seen it happen. People have bad losses in tournaments and they just never get over them. I've had a couple bad losses that really haunt me still to this day. It just doesn't make any sense to me why, and sometimes that's the hard part is how did I lose that, but I feel like it's made me better in some ways where I just be like, you know what, it just wasn't meant to be. And that's kind of the attitude I can take to tournaments now. I give it everything I got. If it doesn't happen, I'm like, man, I gave that everything and just was not my day. And I can shrug it off and go home with a smile on my face. Very fortunate to be out there doing it. And I think that's the approach that it takes. It doesn't mean that losses don't hurt, because they should hurt. If they don't hurt, you're not a competitor and you probably don't have any business out there competing, but you can't let it just completely just trash your confidence. Same goes for hunting, missing a big animal. That's a hard one to swallow because those opportunities don't come around very often, but at the same time, you got to look at it through a different lens. That's the only way I can get through those, when you hunt a giant deer for so long and then you just blow it, knowing you'll probably never see him again, you could let that ruin your whole season. You could let it just really eat at you. So, I try to look at that through, man, very blessed to have that opportunity. And that's a hard one, to say I'm very blessed to have missed a giant deer or something. But in all reality, it's the truth. We get to hunt, we get to enjoy God's creation, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. It is not easy. It's not an easy game. And, we just move on to the next, and that's the one thing I can say is just move on to the next one, learn from it, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Let me see here. This next one is from, no, wait a minute. Is that it? One of these I had a double question. Game plan. Okay, I think this is it. So, yeah. This is from Speckled at Archery. Speckled Cat Archery. Levi, I see very few people shooting the matrix vanes for 3D or hunting. I myself have been shooting the drivers as well, but planning to switch this summer to the matrix for hunting and to just play around with them. Oh, no. Switch this summer to matrix for hunting and just play around with them. They look cool. What's your opinion on them and why very few run them? Many thanks. Keep up the good work. So the Matrix is another vane from TAC. It's just a different profile, and I won several IBO tournaments with the Matrix profile. It's a great profile, honestly. More of a shield cut profile, so it's a little louder than the TAC. And honestly, I just felt like in the beginning, I think the TAC driver, I just used it a lot for hunting because it was so quiet, and then I just put it on my tournament stuff. And then everybody in tournaments started using the driver, and then it just blew up into this. The TAC driver won more events than any other vane combined that year in 3D, or for like 3 years. And then everybody started hunting with it, and then the other ones just kind of sat there, and they're great profiles. The Summit, the Matrix, all great profiles that have different uses. So I would say, yeah, I think the Matrix is a great vane, very accurate. Maybe I'll even play around with it too. I just think, that I've never took the time to really teach people the difference in those profiles. And, the Summit was more of a blazer type profile. People loved that profile several years ago. It's a louder, higher profile, but it's small. People recognize it. We felt like we wanted one in the line just for people that love that profile, because there's a lot of people that do. The Matrix and the driver are more of a technical vane. The Matrix, the idea behind it was it would be better in the wind. And I really think it might be, but the driver was my favorite all around vane for everything. And that's why I think it just kind of blew up, and everybody loves it so much. So that's the answer to that one. Cody _Susay talk about sponsorships and how it works, how long contracts last. So this is kind of a different one. I think, and every contract is a little different. We work with a lot of companies, over 20 different companies right now, and every contract is different. Anymore, when I first started, it was shooting contracts and TV contracts. We had like a shooter agreement, and then we had the TV deliverables. So you back in the day, you bought the airtime from the network on TV and paid a lot of money for that. In the better time slot you had, the more you paid for it. And then you took that to sponsors, and it used to be the ATA or cold calls, and that's the worst. You got to build the media kits and your pilot episodes, and you go and you try to sell commercial spots for a certain amount of money to pay, hopefully all your airtime. And then you can sell segment spots, brought to you bys, you can sell in-show use, all these different things. And then hopefully you recoup your money and then some. I didn't break even on the TV show for like 4 years until I started making money, and then we continually grew and grew and grew until we made a great living doing that. It's a tough thing to break into. I would not want to try to do that now. And then I had my shooter agreements where you negotiate contingency. You can negotiate upfront money with companies that you're going to shoot for. You're going to shoot so many events for a year, and you're going to get paid so much an event. A lot of guys get travel money plus their entry fees paid, so they'll get maybe $1,000 a tournament to go shoot. So they can pay their hotels and their food, and they can shoot for free. And so then if they win, that's the money they're shooting for, really. But it's not costing them money to go, really, other than what they're missing from work. That's most guys' contracts are travel money. Some guys are getting 2 free bows and $300 for travel. Some guys are getting, 6 figures, and there's no limit on bows. It just depends. It depends on your credentials, what you bring to the table. Anymore, you can't just be a great shooter. You got to have social media, you got to have a following, you got to have YouTube, you got to be constantly doing things for sponsors and deliverables and photo packages and video packages. You got to stay in the spotlight. You got to be a Swiss Army knife, and that's really the best way to make a great living in this. You have to be great. Companies have to need you or want you. And then you got to be willing to work your butt off. Sounds simple, and maybe it is simple, but it's not easy. I can tell you that. For one, you got to be a great shot. You got to win. You got to stay competitive, because companies they're not really interested at a high level in people that just shoot well. They want you to win. They want you to be in the spotlight a lot. They want you to be standing there on that last arrow, wearing their jersey, in the tournament. So that's just the way it works. It can be a brutal game, and then negotiations, you got to know what you're worth, and you don't want to say yes too easy, but at the same time, you don't want to turn down a good deal. So you got to be smart, you got to be honest, and you got to have a lot of things going. It's a lot of moving parts when it comes to these deals, and a lot of things you really can't talk about in public on how these deals work, with what we get paid, anything like that. So this is from Robert.1.Williams91. I just want to know about making a game plan when you walk on an ASA range. So this is one of the things I feel like pretty simple answer. I mean, I used to walk the range every target and put an asterisk beside the ones that I thought I needed to 12. And that would give me an idea normally on what the high score of that range would be that day. So if I put an asterisk next to 10 targets out of the 20, I would feel like somebody's going to shoot 20 up today. Somebody's going to get all the ones they should get. If I put an asterisk beside 5 targets, that means 5 12s that I need to get that day that are gettable, then somebody's going to shoot at least 10 up, And me and McCarthy and several of the guys, we used to say stuff like that. What do you think? What do you think it's going to take? And feel like it looked like a 20 up range to me, you know, and normally it was at least that. But anymore, what I realize is somebody's going to kill it no matter what. The level of competition and the talent is so unbelievable that you're going to have to be between 12 and 20 up a day to compete with these guys. So I still like to walk the range and get a feel for, is it a soft range? Am I going to have to hit a lot of 12s, or is it just a ball buster where I need to survive today? Because some days 10 up, 12 up, it's killing it. And some days 10 up and 12 up, you're going to be struggling to make the pack. But never a bad day when you're double digits up. So just try to limit mistakes, understand the targets that are tricky, targets that are deceiving, targets that can really be weekend ending targets. And, weekend ending targets, and really avoid disaster. And then hit the ones that you should hit. And that's really the game plan. You know, easier said than done again. Let me see. Gosh, how many of these did I screen shoot? Oh, this one's easy. This is from 181 Archery. Hi, our daughter Brooklyn is 8. She absolutely loves you. Watch all your videos, follows you everywhere. So we'll definitely be watching tonight. And if you could just say hi to her, that would make her so happy. That's all. So, hi, Brooklyn. Thank you for being a fan. Thank you for watching. But I did want to say hi to her. This is from Marco Aldi J. I'd love to hear about deciding arrow weight and FOC for shorter draw length dudes. I shoot a 26-inch draw. I'm building some arrows for upcoming elk hunt and trying to decide how heavy I should go. Should shorter draw mean heavier arrow at slower speed, or lighter arrow at a faster speed? I don't know if maybe heavy is bad because then my arrow is basically crawling to the target, or if I'm overthinking it. Right now I shoot ultra arrow with a 125 grain head weighing at 432. I think that's a great arrow weight. I think if anything, it's on the heavy side for a 26-inch draw guy. I think depending on what kind of poundage you're shooting, hopefully 70 plus, I think you just got to have common sense. I've never measured FOC once in my life. I think there's a huge trend of heavy arrows that is pointless. I think all it's doing is band-aiding, people that don't know how to shoot and people that don't know how to work on their bow. But it takes so much efficiency out of the bow when you shoot an overly heavy arrow. When it's that slow, then your pin gap is enormous. Your mistakes, if you don't have a perfect range, are multiplied so much. And really you're losing penetration as you're losing speed as well. So I think you have to have common sense. You don't want to shoot a 300 grain arrow at 310 feet a second, when you could shoot a 400 grain arrow at 280. You know what I'm saying? That's but you also don't want to shoot a 500 grain arrow at 240. You see what I'm saying? Like, just have common sense. I think 430 is a great place to be. I shot a moose with a 420 grain arrow at 88 yards and blew through it with a 2-inch expandable. So I think anywhere from that 400 to 450 range as an arrow weight is a great weight. I wouldn't go too much heavier than that at 26-inch draw. I would shoot as much poundage as you're comfortable shooting, and don't overthink that too much. I think you should focus on arrow placement way more than I would focus on how heavy it should be, how light it should be. Just have a good solid setup and shoot them in the lungs. That's the best advice I could tell you. And that is it, guys. That is all the questions I had on Instagram as far as the ones I screenshot. You guys asked a ton of questions just like on YouTube, and a ton of great ones. I wish I could go answer every single one of them. But I really enjoy these. I really enjoy the breakdowns where I can answer your questions more in depth. We're going to do more of these. It's been cool to have Micah in for a few days so I can get some of this stuff done. Again, I really appreciate all you guys watching our channel that ask questions, that want to learn from me and what I know in the shooting and the technical stuff. Happy to answer things that I know about, and really thankful to have you guys follow along and be this interested in what we're doing. So again, I really would appreciate you guys hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button. Really shows the companies we work for that you guys care, and that's important to us. So again, thank you guys. We'll see you on the next breakdown.